Tak já bych chtěl předat slovo Jaapovi de Koningovi. Jak už tady byl představen, je to vedoucí poradenské skupiny Witteveen Bros. Je to předseda výboru pro vnitřní trh v FC v Bruselu, člen Národního výboru pro expertní zadávání veřejných zakázek, má 20 let zkušeností v oblasti výběrových řízení. Já mu předávám slovo. Já se omlouvám za ty problémy s počítačem, to je zdejší místní. Minule nám fungoval bez problému, teď jsem musel přepojit.
Okay. The technique is not working properly, but I get some help. I always like to talk, to walk when I talk, so I'll do that. I hope I won't be too close to you. Last year in Poland, in Warsaw, the first time, I insulted my audience by saying they were not the right audience. Because this is a story for clients. And the first time in Poland, we didn't have any clients. So they listened to that, and the next time we came in November, we had the room filled with clients. So now I'm curious, which one of you is a client or representing the client? Can you raise your hand, please? 1, 2, that's all? Oh, 4 already? And the rest of you are from contractors or engineers? Yeah? Okay, well, especially these 4 clients, listen very carefully, because this is your story. Well, today we're going to talk about best value procurement, but also the basis for it, the law, the new European directive. And that is, well, my 3/4 of an hour, my 45 minutes. So that's what I'm going to do. Next slide, please. Well, this is me. This is a bit like metrics, and Wiebe will explain later the term metrics. So, but this gives you something of what I do. I'm not a lawyer. I do projects. I'm just working on projects. So, what I learn on projects is, well, the practice. I'm not a theoretical person. I do projects. Next slide, please. And this is my company. Well, why do I show this? We are a very regular engineering firm. We do technique. That's our core business. Into small projects, big projects, and more international projects. 1/3 of our turnover is from abroad. And, well, this is my company. And just to get it clear, the name Witteveen has no connections at all with this Mr. Witteveen. It's purely coincidence, absolutely no relationship. Okay? To make that clear. Okay, well, and I'm proud of this company. It's a good company. But anyway, this is the marketing part. Next slide, please. What I'm going to tell you about 3 things. First, I'm going to tell you something about the new European directives and their main items. I'm going to tell you something about meat, of course, because meat is the basis for BVP. If I say meat, does everyone know what I mean? What is meat? Yes? The most economically advantageous tender? I'll get back to it later, but that's important to know. Meat is the basis for best value procurement. And I'm going to tell you about the Dutch experience, what we have in Holland, because we have a new procurement law since 2013, which states that meat is obligatory, so we have the experience now. How does it work? Okay, next please. These are the new European directives. Since last year, you already mentioned it, a year ago, April 2014, they were put into place, and all the member states have 2 years for implementing these directives into the national legislation. Well, as you said, you have the ambition to do it in 2 years. There are examples of countries that took a bit longer. For instance, Belgium, it took them 9 years for the former directives to implement. So 2 years is very good if you succeed. And you're not the first, because Denmark has already won. Denmark has already implemented these directives into their national legislation. So you're not going to be the first. Second, perhaps. Okay, these directives, and especially the first one for infrastructure, is the most important one, the 2014-24. Next slide, please. Well, it took us 10 years for to get to the new one. The last one was from 2004. These are now from 2014. And it was a long process of getting there. And I think that has to do with the number of member states we have nowadays. But it was a long process to get to the new directives. And are they really new? Well, in my opinion, they are. And that's because of two reasons. The first reason is that the goals are different. The former directives were mainly meant for efficient and effective procurement. They were meant to open markets, for instance. You know, the whole European market. That's what they were for. These new directives, they have a different goal. They are instruments on achieving the goals for the European 2020 goals. And the 2020 goals, they are goals like a smart, sustainable and inclusive growth. So Brussels thinks we should need more innovation. We should do more on sustainability. And these new directives, they are an instrument of achieving these goals. So that's really different from the directives in 2004. And secondly, let me put this. So the content is different, but I think the message is also important. Brussels sees the procurement phase as very important to achieve something new. And I think that's what you said just now. Procurement is the start of something new. And that's what Brussels thinks as well. So your new procurement law can be also the basis and the start of new innovation and so on. Okay, about the content, what I said, it's also different. There are new elements. For instance, meat is new. I'll get back to that later. But also elements like the negotiated procedure. It's more easy to use this procedure than before, than in the 2004 regulations. And to achieve more innovation, for instance, there is a new procedure, the innovative partnership. I don't know if anyone of you have read these new directives. Has anyone read this, the innovative partnership? Not yet? Yes? Okay, did you understand it? I didn't. No. It's very vague. It's a really vague procedure. Partnership. So but then that makes me curious. And then I think, okay, I'll try to find a client who wants to start this procedure and we'll just see how it works. It's a vague procedure, but it's a new one. And I think the goal behind it is very sensible. Get more partnership, a different relation between the client and the contractor, or the client and the engineer. Very interesting, the innovative procedure. Well, how did I get involved into all this? I am the chair of the Internal Market Committee at EFCA, and EFCA is the European Federation of Consulting Engineers. And we have been busy for a couple of years in thinking in Brussels, together with all the member states in our committee, about this new directive. And we try to influence, of course, on the way it's being developed. What you see here is one page of a lot of pages. It was a lot of work. And next page, please. Next slide. It's much bigger than the last directive. It is now 648 pages. You've read them all? You did? Oh, wow, compliment. It's immense. So I would really recommend try to make it more simple than the 648. That's a lot. Well, what we did, we tried to focus on some items, especially these 8 that are mentioned here. Of course, we are engineers, so we think it's important that you make some division between what you do. If you're a contractor or you're an engineer, how does it work? How should you procure a contractor? How should you procure an engineer? So we were very much favored of a separate definition of knowledge-based or intellectual services. Well, we half succeeded because now the term is in the text. It is mentioned that there are knowledge-based services, but you can't find anywhere what it is. So we are mentioned, but what is knowledge-based services? There's no definition. So other elements that we find important, the in-house activities, how do you do that as a client? What are the regulations for that? The choice of procedures, as I mentioned, it's more easy to use the negotiated procedure. That's in Article 24. Variance, of course, how do you deal with variance? I think that's important in relation to best value procurement. The division of contracts into lots, that's where SMEs come in, small and medium-sized enterprises, their influence. And very important, Articles 66 and 67 about the meet criteria and LCC, so the life cycle costing. What does a project cost? What is the price of a project? That can be quite a definition, quite a discussion. And subcontracting and modification of contracts. Now, if you want to have more information about this, we have written a small memo, and it's available in Czech, in Czech. So if you want to have this, you can go over there. If you stand up, please. You have more elements of this. One of the members of my internal market committee. It's in Czech, it's available. So, let's go to the next slide, please. Yes, one of the examples of the advice we gave was this one, Article 67.1. Now, what does it say? Article 67.1 states that contracting authorities shall base the award of public contracts on the most economically advantageous tender. Well, that sounds clear, doesn't it? You shall do it. So let's put the emphasis, there is no discussion, you shall use meet the most economically advantageous tender if you want to award a contract. Okay, we were happy. We thought, well, we achieved our goal, meet is obligatory. Well, that's not quite the case, because if you read Article 67.2, it says something about what is meet. And then you read, the best offer shall be identified on the basis of price or cost and may include the best price-quality ratio, which shall be assessed on the basis of qualitative criteria. Now, if you hear me carefully, there is may. You may include. So it is price and you may include other criteria. So it's still possible to use price as the sole award criteria. So 67.1 says meet. 67.2 says, well, meet can be only price. Then what is meet? It can be only price. So what we advocate to the member states is that if you put this directive into your legislation, try to replace this may and make it should, Article 67.2. So I don't know what you're planning to do, but I would emphasize on changing this may into should and really use meet as the sole award criteria. Well, it's free advice, so for you. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, what is meet? I already asked you, you know what it stands for, most economically advantageous tender. But you can also say, well, this is meat as well, isn't it? It's a lot of meat walking around here in a Dutch village. Well, it sounds like a joke, but I'm serious about it because you have to always be, especially in these kinds of discussion, in new ideas, you have to be explicit about what you're talking about. So meat can be a cow, but of course, in our case, meat is not a cow. Meat is the most economically advantageous tender. So the message is make it explicit. Make sure that what you're talking about. And I'll give you one example. A couple of months ago, I talked to someone and he said, well, I have a meat project. I thought, well, what is a meat project? For me, I know about design and build, I know about red book or yellow book, but what is a meat project? I didn't understand it. So I asked him, what do you mean? Meat is an award criteria. What has to do with the project? But in fact, he meant an integrated contract. So he meant design and build instead of meat. So that's an example of being, that's my advice for you, be explicit about what you're talking about. Okay, next slide, please. Now, what is meat? Yep, another one. Meat is the most economically advantageous tender. Beautiful term. But that's simply what it says. It says, next one, please. It says you should take other elements into account than only price. That's the basis of meat. And we'll work this afternoon, so please stay. We'll work about, the workshop is going to be about what other elements are there. How do you choose them? How do you get the right qualitative criteria next to price? And we'll do that on basis of a real project. So, because that's something you have to learn. You can't just say, well, we'll just take price or we'll just take something else and then we have meat. You have to think about that. But anyway, meat is an award criteria. So it's not a selection criteria. I think you all know the difference. Selection and award criteria. First you have the selection criteria, at least if you have the restricted procedure. You use them for selecting the company and assess the company. And an award criteria is used for assessing the offer. So it's not about the company, it's about the offer. That's what meat is about, and it's an award criteria. Next, please. Well, and it's more than just price. And there's a whole world behind meat, because you have to think about, that's what we're going to do this afternoon as well, how much weight am I going to put on the other criteria next to price? And when does it work, and when doesn't it work? That's what we're going to do. Okay? Well, I'll show you 3 examples, next please, of very concrete, what is meat? Well, this can be meat, what you see here. This is a real project, and what has been done here is the assessment of 3 offers. We have 3 offers from A, B, and C. They all offer a price, a total price. That's on the rule over there, millions. Perhaps I can use the this one to show you. Here are the prices in millions. So this one is the cheapest, 5.1. This is the most expensive one, 6.2 or 3 million euros. Well, there are some qualitative elements, 4 of them: quality, project control, and maintenance and planning. And every offer has been assessed by a team, and the team gives points to each offer and each element. And that's what states in this matrix here. This is what they score on the qualitative elements. And then everything is being taken into numbers. So the scores are into numbers from 1 to 5. And that accounts for the qualitative elements, but also the price. So the lowest gets the most points, 5 points, and the rest all relative to that, lower points for their price. So everything is put into and accounted into price. And what do you see if you just add everything up and you take the final scores? Then this one has the highest score, 4.09, and he wins. And what do you see then? He doesn't have the lowest price. He's not the most expensive one, but he has such good scores on quality that he beats the lowest price, and in the end he gets the highest score. Example number 1. Clear to everyone? Yep. Okay. Example number 2. This is a different system. This is a different technique. In this technique, everything is not translated into points. It is translated into euros. And you have to understand there are 2 kinds of euros. There are the real euros. These are here. This is the price they want to have for the job on this line. And again, number C has the lowest price. Number A has the highest. These are real euros. And then what you do is that you take all these criteria. There are quite a lot of criteria here, a bit too much actually, I think. But anyway, again, a commission judges all these criteria, and the score is being translated into euros. And these are not the real euros, they are sort of monopoly euros. Yeah? So the grade they score is being translated into these euros. And then these euros, all these scores, are being subtracted from the real price. And then you get, on the baseline here, you get the definite score. And then the one who offers the lowest price gets the job. So what you see here is that the score is, yes, one question?
May I ask a question?
Sure.
Is there also a system to attribute different significance to different criteria? Or are all criteria allotted the same value?
No. What you see here, and also on the last slide, can I have the former slide, please? Oh, this one. They're not, like you say here, this is the weight, total is 100%, price weighs half, so 50% and 20% on quality, 15, 10 and so on.
How do you decide on this 50, 20, 50%? How do you decide?
Then you'll have to stay the afternoon, then we're going to explain that. How do you decide? That's something you have to learn. Yeah. We're going to subtract the weight of the criteria on the basis of a real case this afternoon. Yeah. Okay, the next, please. No, former. So, the same happens here. Here's the maximum value you can have, and you can see that the client thought that the prices were going to be near 750,000 euros. And if you would have scored everything maximum, you would have made 750,000, you would have subtracted it, and you would have ended on 0. That's the theory, and this is practice. And in the end, the lowest price here, including all these qualitative elements, is getting the job. So again, the conclusion here is that the one who is not the cheapest and is not the most expensive one gets the job. You have to pay 550,000 euros for this project. Okay, is this technique clear, what we're doing here? These two, yes? One question?
Dita Tesarkova, EIP. Can you state some example? For example, the sub-criteria A1 is, for example, quality, and say, how do you assign the money value for this criterion? Because...
Well, that's quite simple. The difficult thing is, how much weight are you going to give A1, for instance? That's the same question you asked. How heavy am I going to weigh this sub-criteria? And then it's very simple. If you say, I want to weigh the qualitative criteria as much as the price, you say 50-50, then you think, okay, the price is going to be 750,000 for this project, so they can win on qualitative criteria the same amount of monopoly euros. So here they say, okay, 5% out of 100 is A1, and then 5% from 750,000 is 37,500. So that's a simple sum. Is that a good answer? Yeah? Okay, thank you. So this is a different technique on using meat. And this is called monetarization. And this is the system that's actually mostly used in the Netherlands, this one. Mostly, yeah, monetarization. Because the advantage of this system is that as a client, you see very good at what you actually are willing to pay for qualitative criteria. Because you have to realize that, okay, if you would just have awarded on price, you would have given the project to number C, because he was the cheapest. But now you're paying not 400,000 euros, you have to pay 550,000 euros. So you're paying extra, and actually that's the cost of weighing more than just lowest price, and weighing a better quality. That's the system. Okay, let's get to number 3. The price offer is on the 695 P1, so it's the second from below. That's all the real price offers. Yep. Well, this is a more. I'll get through this very quickly. This is a real project in Leiden, the city of Leiden. Next, please. Parking facility, 2 locations, underground, so quite complex. Quite big, 1,000 parking spaces for cars, multiple floors, also in the historic town of Leiden, and the type of contract, an integrated contract, including maintenance, so DBME. Now, what you see here is what we scored ourselves. This is a project we acquired. They have put it into phases, so we had to score on each phase, 5 phases, and we could score on project scope, organization, opportunities and risks. And Wiebe is going to tell about that as well, because that's one of the new elements in best value procurement. You have to deliver your opinion about risks and about opportunities for this project. So that's really, this was a BVP project. Planning was involved and interviews. That's also, he's going to talk about the interviews. They're a very important element of best value procurement. And in the end, we scored 866 points. Next slide, please. And then, in the end, this was the final score. Price, it accounts for 30%. So that's a choice you have to make as a client. How much weight am I going to put on price? In this case, it was only 30% and 70% on quality. And that's one of the elements of best value procurement, that price is not more than 50%, even lower than 50%, perhaps even lower than 30, Wiebe, I don't know. It's getting lower and lower. And quality is getting higher and higher. And in this case, it was 70%. Well, if you then look at the scores, you don't see the real price, but you see the points we had for price. Well, we were the cheapest because we had the lowest number of points for price, 760. And the cheapest was number 1, he got 1,000 points. But subscriber number 2 and 1 didn't score very well on quality, so we beat them really on quality, and we had 818 total price, a weighted score. So we got the job. This was, again, an example of putting everything into points and not into euros. Okay? These were these examples, 3 of them. And what do you see if you look at this? Where's my... oh, here. You see different techniques. And you see in all these examples, you get not the cheapest. You get someone with a high price. But you can think that if you're comparing price and quality, you have a number of possibilities. And of course, as a client, you are scared of one possibility, that you pay the highest price and you get the lowest quality. That's what you're afraid of, probably. But will that offer ever win in this system? No. So you don't have to be afraid of that, because they're not able to score. And what would you like to achieve? You probably all think the same now. What do you want as a client? What's the best? What are you dreaming of in this system? Of course, a low price and high quality. In fact, the lowest price and the highest quality. That's actually what you want to have. That's the offer you would like to have. So I don't pay too much and I get a very high quality. Well, is that realistic? Does it happen? Do we get offers that have the lowest price and the highest quality? And then we get to the Dutch experience. Let's take it the next slide. In April 2013, we had in Holland our new procurement law. It took us a couple of years, but in the end we had one. First it went wrong, but eventually in 2013 we had our new procurement law, and we still call it the 2012, but anyway, it's in place since 2013. And there is a very simple principle behind it: comply or explain. So, for instance, meat is in there as the obligatory criteria for awarding a project. But if you can explain that you're not able, or it is disadvantageous to use meat, you can use price. But then you have to give these arguments. And the same accounts for criteria and so on. The principle behind it is comply or explain. Very simple. Yep.
So what would be a good reason not to use meat and to use only price?
Because, well, it can be the project. It can be a very simple, straightforward project where there is really no expectation of creating any value on using qualitative criteria. That's possible. I don't know if you're going to say something about that, but You have to, I think you have to scan first, what kind of project do I have, what kind of project goals are there, and then is it useful to use meat, or shall I give the arguments of using only price? But there's, well, you have to give these arguments, so it's not so simple just to say, I'm not using meat, I'm using price. Now you have to give these arguments. And if they're not good, you can get discussion about your decision. In court, yes, that's possible in court. Okay, what criteria is meat? So we have this in our procurement law, and we have been using it now for more than, well, almost 2 years. And after 1 year, we had some investigations about, well, how effective is it? What are the consequences of using meat? Well, and frankly, they're quite surprising. Next slide, please. There was an investigation through the Economic Institute for the Construction Industry on the use of meat. And what did they conclude? Of course, much more, I really say much more use of meat than before. So it really jumped up to about 70% of the big offers are using meat as an award criteria. So that's sounds quite logical. There was also a really development in the kinds of criteria that were being used. So clients were really thinking about, how do I get the criteria that create for me the most value, that are really giving more value to the project. But there it is, there are more bidders with a low price and a high quality. It was really the number of offers that were awarded with a low price and high quality were rising. And well, that is of course a very nice surprise. So this is the result from one study. There's another study from the Department of Public Works and Waterways, Witteveen works. Well, you'll say something about it, but they are the biggest client in infrastructure in Holland. They spend about 8 billion euros each year in infrastructure. And what were the results on procurement? They concluded that from their projects, 50% is rewarded on highest quality. 50%, you get the highest quality and not the lowest price, but also the 25% is rewarded on highest quality and lowest price. Wow, that's what we want, right? That's what we dreamed of. And 25% is like that. So I think you were quite excited about these results. You'll talk about this in BVP as well, because you can say, well, how is this possible? How can an offer be on the lowest price and still have the highest quality? Because we all think that quality costs money. And this is, of course, the adverse. This is the other way around. No, you get the highest quality and you get the lowest price. And what is behind it is that the philosophy that if you're really good, if you're a qualified bidder, you know what you're doing, and you really go into the project, you know what the project is, you know what you have to do, then you get the best view of the risks there are in this project. And if you have a good view of these risks, you can assess them in the proper way, and you're not, well, if you don't know the risks, what are you going to do? You're going to price them, because you don't know them. So you put up something on the price because there's a risk you can't judge, you can't assess on beforehand. So the theory behind it is get a good view of the risks, especially the risks, and perhaps the opportunities, and then you're able to price them in the right way, and you get, like in these examples, 25%, you get the lowest price. So that's, I think it's quite a conclusion, a very hopeful conclusion.
Can I just ask for the clarification?
Yep.
25% of the awards were given to the bid, which were priced as with the highest quality. It scored the most points on the quality, but also the bids offered the lowest price.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. So it's even better than my examples, these three. It was really the one with the really lowest price, offered also the highest quality. So he was the winner by far, of course, if you look at the technique we're using. Okay, next please. Now, concluding, why should you use meat? Well, first of all, it's the law, as I say it, with the remarks I made on Article 67. But the new European directive simply states you should use meat as a award criteria. And we often have the discussion, and perhaps you want to ask that as well, is it legal, what you're doing in the Netherlands? Yes, it is legal. It is legal in the European way, and it is legal in our national legislation. The second question often is, how objective is it, all these qualitative criteria? How do you assess them? How do you is it maximum objective? Because price is the most objective. Price is no discussion, price is objective. But are qualitative criteria objective? Well, and then the discussion is, if I'm honest, I would say no. Not 100%, especially not with a lawyer's view. Can it be, for instance, an interview, how can it be objective? But you can make it objective by looking at how do you do it, how is the process, and how do you start it up. And I think the discussion should also not be about is it objective, you should have the discussion about is it acceptable. Are bidders willing to accept that you assess their offers in a certain way? That's the discussion you should have, and not the legal discussion, is it objective? And that's the Dutch experience as well. It took us quite a couple of years also for bidders, for contractors, to accept that this is the way the offers are being assessed. But nowadays, of course, we have discussions, and sometimes we go to court, but in the most procurement procedures, things are being done like this. And it's also an obligation of the client to do it in a proper way. You know, you have to be transparent. So, for instance, if we do a procedure with meat, and we have the award decision, we always invite all the bidders a week after the decision, and we're simply going to explain them how they were assessed and how the other offers were also assessed. So you have to be transparent in the way you actually, in the end, decide about the offers. So that's one of the elements you really have to do in order to give the contractors or the engineers the confidence that you have done this in a proper and decent way. That's your obligation as a client. And then the discussion is not about is it objective? No, is it acceptable? Are there arguments on thinking, if I would have had a different score, then why do I get this score? And you'll just have to explain that. So, but anyway, this is the reason it is legal, and that's why you should use meat. It's in the law. The second one, I hope you're convinced now, you really get more value for money. That's really what we see now after having this almost 2 years. You get more value for money if you use meat. You challenge your competitors, you challenge your contractors in making an offer that has more than just, as in Red Book, building what's in the specifications and nothing else. So you get more value for money. That's the second reason. The third reason, and that's from a procurement point of view, it's simply a better instrument than only price. Mr. Hoek said something about it, and the minister also said something about it. The negative elements of using only price, the downward going development of using only price, it's not a good way. It's simply a better instrument than only price. And the side effect, of course, you get away from only price-driven procurement, and you challenge the market, so you get more innovation, you get better offers. That's your advantage as a client. And number four. Lucas said something about it. It's also about why are you working? Why are you doing? Are you active in the business you're working in? I like the construction industry. I don't think I'll do anything else the rest of my life. I like to build something. You know, it's about my work, and I want it to be good projects. I want to work with colleagues in a normal way, with contractors in a normal way. So this gives me the opportunity to do a project in a proper way and to have fun and to enjoy my work. So it's about my work. That's a bit philosophy perhaps, but it's for me that's important. So that should be the fourth element of using meat. Okay, this is about meat. Are there any questions about this story? the Dutch experience. Oh, over there.
Jan Troják, CSUB Bank. Thank you very much. It was quite interesting, and this is exactly the way we shall go. And maybe one question, would it be some kind of give us examples of the quality criteria, because this is probably the most important part of the evaluation, which needs to have expertise, because there could be number of criteria which are not simple to evaluate and should be evaluated by experts. And could you just tell us a couple of sentences about it? What could be the criteria and how they are evaluated in practice?
Yes, well, perhaps it's a bit disappointing. We're going to discuss this afternoon about the criteria. That's the main element of the workshop. But you have already seen some qualitative criteria in the examples I gave. It can be quite simple, for instance, a planning. So you want to challenge bidders in making such perhaps a shorter planning, or more effective, or with less consequences for the people around, or elements like that. I now have a brick project in Amsterdam, at the center of Amsterdam, around Central Station. There are a lot of things to do there. And one of the big project goals of Amsterdam is to do this as smooth as possible. So with as less negative effects on, for instance, all travelers and tourists. So that's a very big element. That's what they really want to achieve. They simply say, we don't want any innovation here. We don't need technical innovation because we know what's going to be done there. But this is what we want. We want a contractor that can show us how to do this project without consequences for travelers and for inhabitants, for instance. So that can be one qualitative criterion. Is that an answer? Yeah? Okay.
Petr Dovolom at McDonald. I would like to ask you, you mentioned that you use this meat criterion. Do you use this very standard approach of two envelopes, technical envelope and technical proposal and financial proposals in two envelopes, and you start opening the technical proposal first, you make a separate evaluation, and then you go to evaluate the financial the proposal?
Yes, that's what
Is it a standard process of doing this? Because otherwise it could be very difficult to explain to anybody that this process of evaluation is transparent, because you could play with the numbers and be a little bit prejudiced in terms of the evaluation.
Yes, the two envelope system it's not really a standard, but it's used a lot because it's very sensible. Two envelopes, first the technical envelope, first the assessment of all the qualitative criteria, and then putting it down the scores, make them officially, for instance, and then open the price envelope. So you're not influenced by the surprise of someone who's very cheap or just very expensive. So two envelope system is being used a lot. Yes, a lot. Yeah. Another question. How much time do we have? I don't know.
I think we are almost over. If I may have one question. You mentioned if we tender the project based on the design bid build, red FIDIC, I mean, the perception in Czech Republic would be you have documentation, and the only thing what matters is the price, just to deliver what we ask for. In your bids, do you allow the variant bids, for example, or how do you?
Variance is a different discussion, but in my opinion, and I see that mostly happening, is that by a red book, in the FIDIC terms, a red book can be assessed, I think, quite good by using only price, because the design is until detailed specifications, so the client knows what he's going to get, and the contractor knows what he's going to build, what he has to build. There's no interpretation. There's also no freedom in interpretation. While if you use a design and construct contract, so FIDIC yellow book, there is the possibility for a contractor to interpret the qualifications, specifications, and use his own expertise in doing that as efficient and as innovative as possible. So I always state that if we use an integrated contract, we should always use meat and not only on lowest price.
So when we speak about the meat,
Yeah.
it's always procured as a design build. Mostly.
No,
Or-
but mostly.
Or
yeah.
or the
But-
design build finance operating.
Yeah, but it's always the other way around. First, you choose your contract, the contract form. You choose if it's yellow book or whatever, or red book, and then you, of course, you use you organize your procurement and you choose your award criteria.
But you would recommend the meat even for the red book.
You can do that. Yes, it's possible. But is that the right answer?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Totally.
Okay. Shall I give the floor to Wiebe?
Okay.
We'll have a break first?
Thank you very much. I think
Okay.
it was very interesting.